Consumer Reporter, the news of President Trump giving classified information to Russia causing quite a roller coaster ride on Wall Street this week. Stocks took a 500-point dive before recovering on Friday. So what can we expect this week? Certified financial planner Gary Abely joining us this morning to talk more about it. Gary, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very good. First off, we're told your twin daughters were named co-valedictorians of Winter Park High School. Big congrats to you.
Thank you very much. They worked very hard.
That's very good news on in the paper today as well, right?
Yes.
Okay. Right. Very good. Well, let's get to the business here. Can we expect stocks to rebound this week? It's been kind of a mixed bag with President Trump. Stocks hitting, all-time highs and now kind of dipping down to a low this week, but recovering.
Right, and we look at that drop, and it really wasn't a very big drop on Wednesday. So, in fact, the 15 days prior to that, we had actually not seen even a 0.5% move either way. And that hasn't happened since I was 4 years old.
Really?
Yes, so that's 1969, if anyone's wondering. So we have not had volatility. We would typically expect in a given year a drop of 14%. So to put that into perspective, that would be, now not obviously in a day, but over a period of time, about a 3,000-point drop at the current Dow level. So a 200-300 point really isn't that volatile. I think we've been lulled into thinking that that's volatile. It's not unusual for the market to be up or down 1% to 2%.
And how much does a president usually have, what sort of effect, I should say, does a president have on the volatility of Wall Street when it comes to that?
Well, I think in this particular case, because his policies that he has suggested that he would like to implement are so positive potentially for the market. I mean, you look at taxes. Imagine if we could pay half in taxes next year. We might go out and spend some money.
We might, yeah.
You look at infrastructure spending, wanting to spend potentially $1 trillion. That would have a huge effect. Some of the stocks like local stocks, United Rentals and others that are in the construction trades have really surged with the promise of potentially that, and then less regulations and defense spending. We talked to some of our NATO allies and said, hey, you're supposed to spend roughly 3% of your GDP. You're not doing it. And so I think a lot of his policies could be very, very useful for the market.
So despite what the mainstream media narrative tries to be as far as undermining recent activities, it doesn't seem to be having an effect on the stock market as much.
No, and the stock market is going to behave based on what we think the underlying companies will earn over the next year. And that's looking pretty good. We've actually had 3 quarters of improved economic profits from corporations in the S&P 500 index, and in the teens, I might add. So very nice growth, and I think that's more important than the day-to-day news headlines. So I would say probably tune out that information. That's the policies that will work, and whether those are implemented by whether it be Donald Trump or even another president, it's those pro-growth policies are what will drive the market.
And take those news headline bombshells when it comes to the White House with a grain of salt, so to speak.
Well, absolutely, and keep them into perspective. They may not be true.
Okay, let's talk about President Trump. His first big overseas trip to Saudi Arabia. A handshake agreement yesterday with the leader of Saudi Arabia, $100 billion arms agreement. What do you think, or how do you think that might affect our economy and even the stock market here on his return trip home?
Well, I think it gives every American a little time to pause and get away from the Comey investigation and say, okay, here's a president doing something outside of just internal domestic items and looking presidential doing it. So I think it's helpful, and I think too it's helpful to have additional defense spending, by our allies, obviously.
Sure.
So.
Okay, Gary, good advice. Where can people find you?
They can find us at financialgroup.com.
Okay, good to see you, and congrats again on the co-valedictorians for your twin daughters.
I appreciate it.